I always say that we're finally back to where we were in 2019. It's just a different customer, whereas before COVID, it was so international. Everyone came from Europe, from Asia, from the States. And of course, international travel's back. But now there's just so many more locals. So to your point, people who are just maybe previously were going to Mexico are like, we're going to go to the mountains for the weekend. We're doing more. So they're doing like more trips, but less distance is what we're seeing. And people, to your point, who are like, we don't care. We'll pay $700 a night for a hotel. We don't care. We're doing it. Put it on the credit card. Don't care if our mortgages just doubled because rates just went up. Like, people just want to have those experiences. And everyone kept saying it's revenge travel. It's revenge travel. It's going to end, right? And for us, it hasn't. I have talked to a few people for who they've seen like that dip. So I think it is definitely based on, are you in a great geographic area? Is there a resort? Is there skiing? Is there hiking? So there's other factors, but I really hope that people keep traveling, obviously, but also because I think it's really good for people to get out and try something different.
Sky, I'm really excited to have this conversation today. And I thought a great place to start would be actually to talk about how you got started in hospitality, which from what I know and understand is a very non-traditional way. You were messing around in Airbnbs a little bit and then kind of broke in. But I want to hear maybe even before you got into Airbnbs and how you did that. And then you can weave into how you started your company.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I went to Toronto from Calgary, where I was living successfully as a chocolate salesperson for Cadbury, flogging Easter eggs, and moved to Toronto to do an MBA in real estate development with no experience whatsoever in the business, just this like burning thing in my head. I want to be in real estate. I want to be in real estate. I don't want to be a realtor. I don't want to be a broker. I want to be a developer. So I go into this MBA thinking this is a great way to start essentially a life in real estate. And it was fantastic. Moved back to Calgary and then decided I want to start my own real estate development company, but had no experience. So I'm going to go work for some developers. So I worked for 3 developers in 2 years. So needless to say, none of them were a good fit mutually. And after being fired the 3rd time, I said, you know what, to hell with this. I need to start my own business. While I was gainfully employed and making real people salaries and, all that, I was able to secure 2 Airbnbs in a place called Canmore and run those kind of as my side hustle, which actually made me more money than my career in real estate. At which point I was like, okay, I have no job. I have these 2 Airbnbs. The bank that lent me the money thinks I'm still employed. So let's just keep that going. And meanwhile, I was like, I want to buy a piece of land. I want to build a hotel. These 2 Airbnbs are so successful that if I can scale that, it's going to be great. So effectively, I had a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom condo in Canmore. And I built this pro forma that extrapolated, well, if I have 1 and 2 making X and Y, times that by 32, it'll make, X plus Y times whatever. So that was the essentially napkin numbers that I presented to potential investors and went out and started raising money because I had no money. I had no job, remember, and pulled together enough money to close on the land and get this hotel going, long story short. So that was the first Basecamp Resorts. The most interesting part of that journey for me was at the very beginning when I wanted to put a deposit on the piece of land and didn't have the $50,000 required to get the land under contract and be conditional. I had purchased a car when I was gainfully employed, and I went back to BMW where I bought this $38,000 car. And I said, listen, I don't want this car anymore. It's got 200 kilometers on it, which is less than 200 miles. Can I please get a refund? And they're like, we don't refund cars. And I was like, well, I just need the money then. Can I finance it? And they're like, well, we don't finance used cars. And of course, I'm like, there's 200 kilometers on it. But the sales guy says, but we can upgrade you and then finance the car. So I ended up with a $75,000 car. Obviously, car payments I couldn't afford, but they cut the check back to me, the $38,000. And at the time, the loan was 1.9%. So I was like, this is a great deal. So I take my 1.9% money, and that's what was the deposit on the first piece of land I ever bought for Basecamp Resorts.
Okay. There's a lot I want to unpack. But I want to go back to like the school part. Do you think there's anything you learned in business school that is directly applicable to what you're doing now? And is that something you'd advise yourself, having looked back and seeing how things have panned out? Is that how you do it again?
Oh, 100%. I think business school taught me that most people have no idea what they want to do, have no idea how to get there, because we were all, 25 to 30 on average, not everybody, but that was sort of the average age. And so many people were just like, I'm going to do an MBA, but I have no idea what I want to do. And I was like, I'm here and I know what I want to do. So that was like a great confidence booster. But it's okay. You don't have to know what you want to do. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. You don't have to have the whole path. Like very few people do. You just have to do it. And so it was great to know that there were other people out there who were, there were smart people in the MBA, like holy mackerel, but they still just like didn't have the path, and that's okay. So that was like a great lesson. That's not like, a school classroom lesson, but a life lesson that there's no right or wrong way of doing it. Just go do it.
How do you still apply that today?
Oh, all the time, like just if we look right now at the portfolio, we have over 20 projects either completed, assets under management, condos we've sold, or things under development. I keep looking out the window because there's a big building right there that we're building, which is our next hotel. And if you sit around and you analyze, you can always find something wrong with a deal, always, or find a hole, or find a risk, or find something. So at some point, you just have to say, okay, I'm okay with these risks and I'm just going to do it. So we do it every day. We do that.
A lot of people with 2 Airbnbs probably would have brought a third and a fourth and a fifth. Why did you just realize, okay, after 2, I think there's a bigger business plan here, but it's actually not Airbnb, it's more of a hotel?
Because I love to travel and Airbnb to me was a dud. And I don't mean that to like offend the business or say it's a dud. Obviously, it's not a dud. It's an amazing business. But the flaw to me was you don't know what you're going to get. And when you get something crappy, nobody cares. You can phone Airbnb, you can phone the host, you can phone Santa Claus. No one cares. If the air conditioner is not working at 2 a.m, there's nobody there 9 times out of 10 to fix it. And I'm like, this is a huge fail. Like the customer service is a wild card. Who wants to sign up for a product where the customer service is a wild card? But when you go to, a brand, whether it be a Fairmont or a Holiday Inn or whatever it may be, there is customer service, or at least you hope that there's customer service associated with that flag. So I wanted to create a flag to the Airbnb product. And that was why I said, I don't want to just buy all these condos and rent them out on Airbnb. I don't want to be part of a strata. I don't want someone telling me what to do. The consistent theme is I'm a control freak and I hate having people tell me what to do. So I wanted to have control of the building, control of the investors, control of the return, control of the brand, and that way be able to execute on something that was in my head and now is really amazing.
How did you solve for the lack of distribution? So Airbnb is great because it puts you on the map. It gives you a face. How did you counter that with your own strategy and your own brand in the early days?
Well, we put our units on Airbnb and it was great. Like we were able to still utilize that platform and the other OTAs, so online travel agencies, for those who aren't familiar with the term, Expedia, Booking.com. We were on all the platforms. We were a hotel. And that was where the biggest misconception was, because our first building looked like a multifamily apartment building. It looked like it's townhomes. We build stacked townhomes. So one level on the main floor and then a townhouse stacked above it. So everyone was like, well, no, that's a residential building. Well, no, it's actually commercial land, commercial taxes, proper insurance, exactly what Airbnb isn't. It's every Joe, Schmo, Tom, Dick, and Harry on thinking they're a hotel when they're not. They're not properly insured. And that was another flaw that I saw in that business that I wanted to rein in. So now from there, we've grown to have multiple different buildings in different locations that are the townhomes. And we also have product that's regular hotel rooms as well, because there's still a good argument for regular hotel rooms also.
What was your strategy in the early days? Like you said, you wanted to get away from every single other Airbnb. In those early days, like how were you distinguishing yourself? Was it new build product, service? What was it?
It was customer service in an Airbnb, for lack of better terms, platform, a home away from home. You get to have the washer dryer, the multiple bedrooms, the multiple bathrooms, great location, but we're there for you, 24/7 service. At first, we didn't actually think we needed a front desk, and that was our biggest mistake, like thinking we didn't have to have somebody there. We now have someone there 24/7. We have, the 1-800 phone number. So all the things that a big brand has, but in this home away from home environment.
What mistakes do you most often see your competitors make kind of in this hybrid Airbnb experiential micro resort kind of space?
Um, I think the few of us that are doing this are, like, I have to say, doing a decent job from the outside. I'm not in their business, so I don't know if they've made like financial mistakes or something that I wouldn't know about. Um, I just always fear for people who aren't doing what we're doing, which is properly zoned land, proper insurance, proper all the things hotels are, and operating out of like residential buildings. I just don't know how that has like long-term success, because municipalities and cities are like one at a time cracking down with more rules, cracking down with more fines. So how are people still renting out, residential apartment buildings? That to me is a little bit questionable. I wouldn't do that. That's so risky.
What were some of the mistakes you made on the first deal that you've since pivoted away from?
Oh gosh. Well, like I said, the biggest one was not having a front desk. And we had this phone that was a cell phone. It was like the phone number was 1-800 blah, blah, went to the cell phone. So we all called it like the hot potato bat phone because nobody wanted it. So we were like, who's taking the bat phone for the next 6 hours? And I remember being on my bike and the phone's ringing and ringing. And it's like, how do I check in? What do I do? And we're like in the bush somewhere biking. It was ridiculous. Like, it was really bush league. Now we have a proper phone system, proper people answering the phone, proper customer service. I mean, we have 540 rooms. We have to. Another mistake, just trying to think. That was the main one. That was like really our main mistake. Yeah.
What services and amenities have you learned are important for people?
Luckily, I have done a ton of traveling, and so I applied a lot of my personal experience to these properties. So not that I know everything, but we definitely went for, your quintessential rooftop hot tub, make sure everybody has everything in the kitchen they need. Like, there's nothing worse than going to a home away from home product and the knives are dull. There's nothing worse than getting there and there's like, oh, occupancy 8, but there's 4 forks. So we've made sure that we've hit all the nails on the head and that we check that, and that housekeeping has a list of everything they're checking for to make sure not only that people aren't like running away with our stuff, but that the next guest has everything that they need. To me, the guest experience is number one. We don't have to be a 5-star hotel to offer 5-star customer service. So it's all about the experience. It's all about, how does the guest feel? How do they connect with the properties? How does this feel like their home, even though they're only there for average length of stay is only 2.7 nights? You'd think it'd be longer in this type of property, but it's not. So for me, it's all about that experience and that connection to the guest.
I always found it interesting. Four Seasons actually was founded in Canada, where you're from. And I went out to go and meet the founder of Four Seasons, Isidore Sharp, and we stayed at the Four Seasons in Toronto. And it was not the nicest Four Seasons I'd ever been to, but it was their flagship at the time hotel. And one thing that was certain is the service was amazing. It was 5-6-star service. And now, having traveled the world, stayed at Four Seasons, their service is always perfect, even if the hotel might not be the best designed hotel in the area. I'm curious to know from you what you've learned over doing this multiple times is really important for service and experience today. Like, what specifically are things that you really, really think about?
Well, first and foremost, if you want to offer that level of service, which we do, it's hiring the right people. And it all comes, for lack of better words, from the top. So it's hiring the right management team, which then hires the right, supervisors, who then hire the right staff, and so on and so forth. So for us, it starts with hiring the right people, having the right training, and having the right opportunities for learning. So if something's not going well, that person might be trying their best and they just don't know, right? So just really training the staff on what we expect, what the customer expects, and really training people on how to read someone based on read the customer. Do they want you to talk to them more? Maybe they don't. Like, we now hire in food and beverage. So I'm always like, introduce them, say your name. If they want to chit chat about the local mountain, great. If they want you to not talk to them, great. You got to be able to read what the customer wants, because at the end of the day, there's not one size fits all with customer service. It's about reading the guest. And if they're upset, we need to give them more time. What are they upset about? Fix the problem. How do we fix the problem? So just taking the extra time to hire the right people has been or at least my mantra for the whole thing.
What do you do to tell everyone what you just told me? Is it like written down somewhere? Are you
No, I
meeting
repeat
every
it. I tend to
employee?
repeat myself on like an hourly basis. And when something's not right, I phone, and then I phone again, and then I phone again. And then eventually some of it sinks in.
Okay, well, you're a control freak. So how have you figured out then how to scale?
Because once I feel like everything's good, I'm comfortable. And for lack of better analogies, let the patients run the asylum, right? Like, we have a great team. We have an amazing executive, and I know that they're making decisions that I would make, and I feel comfortable with it. And then all of a sudden when I go and something's not quite right, they know I'm going to like call everyone. So it's like, nobody wants that. People like try to keep me away sometimes.
We skipped over it a little bit, but I want you to talk to us about what Basecamp looks like today, because you're doing a lot of different things, going in a couple of different directions, but it's all consistent with the core theme.
Right. So Basecamp, effectively, we're a real estate development company. A lot of people think we're just a hospitality company. We're a real estate development company with a, you know, significant portion of our business being hospitality. We still build industrial bays, which people are like, why are you building industrial bays? But it's like, because we're a real estate company who has a large hospitality portfolio. So if we want to hone in on the hospitality portfolio side of it and call that, right now, Basecamp Resorts, our focus is on growing our 5 hospitality brands. So we have Basecamp Resorts, which is the home away from home, Basecamp Lodge, which is obviously a lodge, House-Hotel, which is motel conversions, Northwinds Hotel, which is our entry-level product. We have 2 of those where we've acquired Days Inns and renovated them, deflagged them from Days Inn and made them Northwinds. And lastly, our newfound flagship product, which is Mountain House by Basecamp, where we're building a high-end hotel and Nordic spa. And now we're entering into the Nordic spa business. So right before COVID, this is actually a good story. I had a mentor say, Sky, you're freaking all over the place. This is crazy. Like, you want to get all these big investors. You want to build a business and you're doing 18 different things. Like, stop it. Go and focus on one thing, build the stacked townhomes, and only do that. So I'm like, great idea. Let's like finish all the stuff we have on the go. We're not going to leave a project like halfway through hanging or sell a framed up building that isn't complete or whatever. We're going to finish all that, and we're going to build stacked townhomes, and that's it. We're going to be laser focused. You read all these books about entrepreneurs need to be laser focused. So let's go do that. And then COVID hits, right? And what keeps the lights on? But all the opportunistic real estate deals. So I'm like, fuck laser focused. We're going to do the stacked townhomes and everything else, because there's a place for each of these divisions in our brand. Are we adding any more other than in our Nordic spa business now? No, we're not. Are we doing more industrial base? No, not other than the ones that are in the locations where we need. And the reason I talk about the industrial base is everyone's like, this is such a diversion. But it's not, because as a hospitality company, what do you need? You need a laundry facility. Where do you put a laundry facility? In the industrial area. We own our own industrial laundry facility. We have an office right above it. So everything that we've built, even though we built a 60,000 square foot complex and sold most of it and kept 10,000 feet, it was all for the business. So it does all have a focus. At the end of the day, the outside world might just not see it, right?
I know what you're talking about. So we only have hospitality investments for the most part, maybe a little bit of multifamily on one project. But I've had this fantasy on doing investments in industrial, because it's the complete opposite of hospitality. It's triple net leases. I'm sorry for the industrial people out there, but frankly, it's a piece of cake compared to hospitality. It's just a very different thing. The real estate skills are the same. How have you tried to balance in your life chasing easier opportunities that look easier on paper, given your expertise and your background in developing these complex hospitality projects? And maybe just answer for me, like, is it okay to look at this other stuff? Are you going to be doing any more industrial, or are you really, really stopped?
No, we have another piece of land to do some industrial base here in Revelstoke. But again, we're going to put our laundry there. We're going to move a piece of our business there. But we have a 2-acre site. Like, we can put a lot of bays on a 2-acre site, especially in a small town where we don't need much more than that. It's real estate development. It's the same thing. It costs you X, you're going to make Y. Is there a delta? Does it make sense? And does it, get you somewhere in your business? I don't really feel that you have to be doing only industrial, only retail, only hospitality. I disagree with that because, like I said, I was almost on that, like, just do one thing, and then COVID hits and it's everything else that kept us, financially alive.
Do you have a prized or a favorite brand that you are pushing harder than the others, or are they all kind of equally occupying your attention?
They all equally occupy my attention, but in my next development fund, which I've creatively called Development Fund 2, we're building all the stacked townhomes from the ground up. So really focusing on the home away from home product, which is the same as that first project I told you about in Canmore. So we do have all these other brands. And what typically happens is we go to a new geographic area, we build our Basecamp resorts, which is the stacked townhomes. You get into the market, you start talking to people, and all of a sudden, Jack's selling a motel over there. So this is exactly what happened in we're in Revelstoke. Built a set of stacked townhomes, 32 of them, which is now smaller than what we do. We do larger projects now. And then there was another site. Someone called me, I got this other site. So now we've got this project here. Then, the Days Inn's for sale. Let's go buy the Days Inn. And, there's an industrial site. So you go from like doing one small project. And once you're in the business and in the community, you learn about more stuff, grow from there. So we're continuing to grow. We're now in 7 different geographic areas in Western Canada and going from there. But I want to focus on all of our 5 brands that I mentioned earlier.
How do you find good locations, and what does a good location look like?
Well, it starts with me saying, this is a great location. And then the people on my team who are very much more analytical, and I like to say smarter. Well, why? What just is? There's good snow. There's good skiing. There's no hotels. Let's go buy land. And then the, analysts and CFO and revenue managers get involved, which is good because at the beginning it was all based on like my knee-jerk reaction of what I thought was great. And now we do proper analysis. What's the cost of land? Is it developable? How does the municipality work for entitlements and permits? Is the RevPAR there? Is the ADR there? What's the comp set? And so on and so forth. So there's actually like a very thorough due diligence process other than like, hey, this guy wants to buy this piece of land. I think it's a good idea. So, and I have been turned down like a few times. I've thought something was a great location, but then a revenue team will be like, no, the competition's not doing good revenues. Just be a dud. And so on, we go to the next thing.
Everyone post-COVID is talking about experiential travel. And my personal view is that it's a non-negotiable for people. They'll cut other things before they'll cut travel. How do you think in your business you've seen things change just over the past 3 years? And where do you think things are going into the next 5 years?
Well, it's interesting because I always say that we're finally back to where we were in 2019, which is true. We're back to exactly where we left off, maybe a little bit higher, but not much. It's just a different customer. Whereas before COVID, it was so international. Everyone came from Europe, from Asia, from the States. And of course, international travel's back. But now there's just so many more locals. So to your point, people who are just, maybe previously were going to Mexico or going to, I don't know where they were going, or like, we're going to go to the mountains for the weekend. We're doing more. So they're doing like more trips, but less distance is what we're seeing. And people, to your point, who are like, we don't care. We'll pay $700 a night for a hotel. We don't care. We're doing it. Put on the credit card. Don't care if our mortgages just doubled because rates just went up. Like, people just want to have those experiences. And everyone kept saying it's revenge travel. It's revenge travel. It's going to end, right? And for us, it hasn't. I have talked to a few people for who they've seen like that dip. So I think it is definitely based on, are you in a great geographic area? Is there a resort? Is there skiing? Is there hiking? So there's other factors, but I really hope that people keep traveling, obviously, but also because I think it's really good for people to get out and try something different.
So I want to go back to how you're capitalizing these deals. The first one was capitalized with the BMW or partially. So like from that first deal till now, how have you looked at the equity in your business and figuring out how to raise enough capital to fuel your development ambitions?
Yeah, I mean, this is always the constant struggle because every time I have money, I buy something and then I'm like, oh, got to buy something else. Got to find the money. Got to buy something else. Got to find the money. So that's part of, the deal junkie problem, I suppose. So the first one, like you said, was the car. And then, hey, all my friends, do you have 50 grand? Do you have 100 grand? Let's build a hotel. It's going to be great. Here's a 1-page pro forma. Life is good. And so it started off with like friends and family and my husband, who at the time wasn't my husband. We had just met actually, and he decided to build a hotel with me, which is a whole nother story. But yeah, so it was friends and family. Then it grew from friends and family to friends and family and their associates. So, the spider web grew. And then we started getting connected to a couple family offices, high net worth individuals. So then it became a combination of, the initial kind of 100 to 200 grand retail investors combined with some higher net worth people. And it's just grown from there. Right now, we're looking at some like definitely higher net worth people who can cut checks from like 5 to 10 million that are either a private equity company, a family office. But we still want to have the same investors from the beginning. So if like one of our original investors is like, listen, I got a check for 150 grand, done. Yeah, let's put it in the development LP too. Life is good. We're not solely taking the larger players. We're a hybrid.
Are all your deals standalone syndications, or have you have Fund 2 now? Is Fund 1 a mix of early investments? Is it a few investments and others are standalone? How does that all break down?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, it was all standalone. So each hotel was its own limited partnership with its own unique group of investors. Of course, some investors were in all of them, some were in some of them. And during COVID, we had one hotel do worse than the others. I mean, they were all in the shits, right? We were all going, up the creek with no paddle. But yeah, one was worse than the others. And that's when I had this like aha moment where I was like, this is flawed. I have all these investors and one guy or gal might do great while the other doesn't. Like, that's bullshit. So that's when I was like, I'm going to create a fund and all of the operating assets are going to go into a fund, which is, it's still a limited partnership. It's effectively a private REIT, but I have what's called the SkyWest Investment Fund. And that's where all of the operating hotels got appraised and everyone was able to roll up into this master fund, which conveniently in Canada is a tax-deferred episode. So everybody had X. So let's say you put 100 grand into the first hotel and, you got appraised and your 100 grand is now 300 grand. You get $300,000 worth of units in the master fund. So we had an event this January 1st of 2023. That all happened. Everybody's in the fund. So that's where all the stabilized assets are. Then we have Dev Fund 1. And it's almost complete, at which point all those hotels will roll up into the master fund. Then we have Dev Fund 2, which is just starting. But again, in 2026, 2027, when those are all done and operating, they will roll into the fund. With the whole plan to have the fund be $1 billion of assets under management in the next 5 years.
There you go. I love it. Okay, so you have $1 billion AUM goal. Are people, well, let me ask this. Did some investors push back? Like, were some like, hey, I invested in asset A, I only want to be in asset A, and I don't care about the guys in asset C that we're now going to be commingled with?
No, because at that point, anybody who was like, was really small. And I said, if you don't want to come, I'm happy to buy you out. Or like a couple of other people were on the sidelines to buy people out. And we really want to have an investor base that wants to grow with us. And actually only one person ended up getting bought out of 30. And that's because he ended up becoming a developer and wanted to do his own deal. So like, fine, fair. And then another guy got bought out because he left Canada, and in the rules, you have to either have a Canadian corp or be a Canadian citizen or have some Canadian, connection, which for Americans is no big deal, might I add. We have lots of Americans, they just incorporate a company in Alberta and off they go. Same way as I would go incorporate a company down there if I were to do deals down there. So long story short, everybody was really happy. They loved the idea because it de-risks the portfolio for them.
It's really interesting, actually. And all of your investments are very highly like somewhat similar. They're in similar locations. It's an unbelievable strategy. How did you think about your promote or carried interest in the context of merging everything together?
So I had different promotes in all of the different deals. Like I said, there were, all these different hotels, and I just turned the promote into LP units. So I transferred it, crystallized it into ownership. And then the new promote is based on the value at the time of roll-in to when we sell in 10 years. So the promote, it's not like double dipping. It's like one of them is now dead effectively, and then the new one just starts.
And what is the new, what's the structure of the new one? How do you do it, and how are you doing it for the new fund?
For the new fund, it's 80-20 at time of sale. So basically, because I already took my promote, turned that into ownership, everybody's owners, and distributable cash is distributed obviously based on your percentage ownership in the fund. Then if in X number of years we sell, it's everybody gets obviously their capital back, and then 80-20.
I think that's an amazing structure. I'm surprised I haven't heard more people doing that here in the States. You hear about people taking larger portfolios, private that were once public, or maybe turning into a non-traded REIT, but I haven't heard of many kind of the syndicator crowd do it. And I think it's a great strategy. I'm going to look into it.
I'd be curious to know if that, and you could answer this, maybe not right now, but after you investigate, if that roll-up is tax deferred in the States. I don't see why it wouldn't be if it is up here. Like, you guys are usually a little bit more advanced than we are. But if that roll-up was a tax event, I couldn't have sold the deal. There's no way.
100%. I think that's key. I mean, there's an UPREIT concept here in the States. That's how all these REITs got started in the 90s. And I got to think the tax component is associated with that. It's also just from a cost standpoint, more efficient, because in each of our deals, we obviously have fees that we build to the deal, but there's other costs. There's like accounting fees, there's tax fees, there's legal fees. And if you have one venture, you can certainly economize a lot of those costs with multiple properties. It's pretty interesting. How are you trying to raise capital now for the development fund 2 in a time where I think development's tough, interest rates are high? What's your strategy? What's the thesis?
It's, no different than it ever was. Like, hey, who's deploying equity? Who's got money? So back to the original investors, we have a few events coming up right now. We've sold a bunch of condos at a project, and there's about $7 million going back to investors with great returns and all of that. So of course, strategy 1 is go back to the people who know you, who've done deals, who've made money. Strategy 2, like I said earlier, is bringing in these larger private equity companies, family offices, because development fund 2 is 31 million Canadian dollars that we need to do these 3 projects. So that's 35% equity, 65% debt. We'll be able to get a 65% loan to cost to build them, which is what we're getting at all our projects right now. And the pro forma works. It's basic, right? It's like what I said earlier. If it costs X, you make Y. Is there a delta that's material enough for people to invest in? And there is. So it's telling the story, which now is so much better, because at the beginning with the BMW, it was like, hey, we're going to make a 27% IRR. Well, have you done it before? No. Have you been a developer before? No. Can you guarantee a loan? No. Do you have a house? No. Like, the story was like really hard. Whereas now it's like, okay, we've now done this 15 times. We have a proven track record. We've always been in line with the banks. We've always, done all these things correctly. We've made people money. We've got buildings you can touch, see, walk through. We've got a presence, on Instagram. We've done a ton of philanthropy. Like, all the stories, like, really good now, if I may say. Whereas before it was just kind of like, hey, I'm living in the pickup truck. Let's build a hotel. So
what's your competitive edge, and how do you articulate that to people? Like, if they're looking at you and some other developers doing some experiential stuff, what's special about you guys?
I feel like we're just doing it a little bit differently. And I feel like our competitive edge is our team. We're boots on the ground. We're not like in some fancy office in New York or where everybody's shacked up. Like, we're living in these communities. We're building in these communities. We're part of the community. We're entrenched in the business. And it's not just me, it's all of us. We're all part of this. And I think that's what's really unique, and that's what's attracted local investors. And it's a unique product. Like I said before, if you go and walk through one of our hotels, it's fantastic. We've got all the things you want, whether you're a single person or a group of 20.
In all the brands, are there like defining characteristics that if I walk through the hotel, I'll know I'm in a Basecamp property? And what are those?
Yeah. I would say that that's our architectural selections as well as our design selections. And you would even be able to further not just know you're in a Basecamp, but know which one of our sub brands you're in. It's very clear. It's going to take a while to, educate everyone on the 5 brands and what each one does. That takes time, right? But if you look at some of the big flags, they've got like 27 million sub brands. So I couldn't even name them. So we're going to stick
30.
to 5.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Marriott has, I think, more than 30 now.
Mhm.
It's tough to keep up with.
It is tough. Whereas we're going to stick to 5 plus the
Have
spa.
well, speaking of that, have you analyzed doing a soft brand with a major brand to get a bigger distribution system?
Not with enough analysis to give you a material answer. So I would say no.
So it's working fine doing it yourself, going on OTAs, creating your own website. How has social media and photography and influencers changed the business since you've been in it?
Oh, I think it's great. We utilize all of that. And I think, I'm not a technology person, so I'm not the right person to speak to the ins and outs of it. But according to the team, it's fantastic. Instagram's great. We get bookings from it. And now with all the technology, we can track where everybody comes from and what they clicked and where they are and did they go to Mars and come back. And, you know everything about everything. So it's kind of creepy, but really good. And at the end of the days, we're all at the mercy of the OTAs. Even the big brands get bookings from the OTAs. And so we're just trying to educate people, book direct. It's great if you come direct, and we're developing a points program or a, frequent traveler program. It's not out yet, but I feel like once we come up with that and we have our app that we're developing, it's all coming. And so we don't want to partner with a big brand. We want to be a big brand. It just takes time.
You're doing it all yourself. It's amazing.
Yeah. I told you I'm a control freak.
Yeah. Well, I see it. So I'm trying to I want to understand the process. So if you find a motel, how do you know that you can make it one of your properties? Because there's a lot of these crappy old motels, particularly in ski towns. They might be in good locations. They're feel like they were built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they are just so uninspired. How do you know that you can do something with it?
It's just sort of like a gut feeling, which is the wrong answer if you're an analyst or, someone analytical. But it's basically, I walk through it and I just know. It's I know. If you're married, you just sort of knew you got married. I don't know. There's not a recipe. It's not okay, tick all these boxes. Well, there's some boxes, of course. Of course we go through and we do a geotech and we do a phase 1 and we do a building inspection report. We do the things that you need to do as a proper due diligence. But before we do any of that and spend any money, I'll go through. Yes, no. Okay. Yes, this works because is it the right room count? Is it the right location? Do we have enough parking? So all the things you can see, touch, feel that I can analyze in, 25 seconds now. Then we go into the deeper due diligence. And then if it all checks out and we have a partner, of course, we need money, we do the deal. If it doesn't, then we don't. So we have walked from some deals, which is always, hard as a developer and a deal junkie. But all the ones we've left in the dust have been for good reasons.
How have you navigated the balance between spending money on things that the guests will see and then spending money on things that the guests won't see, but maybe you feel like you have to fix it? I know we bought a hotel in 2018. We spent basically as much money renovating the hotel as we did buying it. A lot of it went into stuff that the guests will never see, but now we have a great building that will last. How have you figured out to find that balance in renovation projects?
Well, it just depends on the building, right? It depends on what's in the bones, what's in the walls. You always end up finding something that you didn't see, even if you do all the reports under the sun and have every engineer. There's just going to be something. So it's important to have a contingency, and we pride ourselves in having great quality buildings. So we dig deep and we bite the bullet because it's typically a building that we know we want to have last. And we just have to make a budget and plan according to having something come up that we didn't know was there. So we allocate a certain amount of money to that depending on the building size. And then from there, we do the cosmetic stuff.
How important is food and beverage now in the projects that you're doing?
In the larger hotels, such as Mountain House Hotel and Spa, it's very important. I stayed away from it as long as I possibly could because it's not my expertise and I like to eat and drink. I don't want to serve it. But now we do have our first food and beverage. It's called Rhythm and Howl. It's at our Mountain House Hotel and Spa in Canmore. And it's been a challenge. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we opened a restaurant and it was a home run. We opened a restaurant and it's been like a pain in my ass. And we're getting there. But I used to, when I was in the MBA, actually, I served tables and I was a bartender and I did all these things. So to me, I was like, why is this so complicated? Like, why can't we just dim the lights? Why can't we just so on and so forth, right? Like, let's get our shit together. Why can't the servers just say their name? Like, go to the table and introduce yourself. Like, Jesus Christ, this is common knowledge. But people are like, nah. All these young people are deer in headlights and no one knows how to do this and I can't do that and it's too hard. And it's been like way harder than hotels, way harder.
What have you learned in trying to figure it out?
I'm not going to do it at any property unless it's absolutely necessary. And at a high-end hotel and spa, it's necessary. You need multiple food and beverage outlets combined with we're building a conference center. So if you have a conference center, obviously you need food. So we're going to do it and we're going to focus on it and we're going to focus on it on our larger properties and stay the heck away from it at our smaller properties. So we actually have one property where there's a restaurant. We leased it out. Best idea ever. Rent it out, let someone else deal with it. So wherever we can, we're going to lease them out to people who know more than I do about food and beverage, and where it has to be in-house because long story short, we bought an old Holiday Inn and it was all connected. Like there was no way to lease it out. The business was all too entrenched and we wanted to have in-room dining, and how do you lease out in-room dining? And it was just getting too murky. But wherever we can, it's someone else can do it.
Can we do a little breakdown on this Holiday Inn deal? Because it sounds like an interesting one with a good story. How did this thing come about? Like, what were the numbers involved? What's the status of it now? How is it all working?
Yeah, you bet. So it's a great deal because you started off, someone built it. It was a 4 Points by Sheridan. Then he sold it to someone else, who sold it to someone else, who ended up reflagging it to Holiday Inn. Through someone I know, I got wind that the guy, let's call him, well, his real name, Mike, wanted to sell it. And Mike was this guy who lived out of town, owned the building, hired a hotel manager to run it, hired a flag to, be the flag, your very typical quintessential hotel model. And the thing, in my opinion, went to shit. It's on 3.8 acres of land in Canmore, where land is trading at, $6 to $8 million an acre. So right away you're at, a very expensive piece of dirt. The hotel is down the drain. I wouldn't have stayed there. It was gross. And I went through and I said, this is a no-brainer. It's 60,000 square feet with a parkade, and they're selling it for land value for $24 million. Because, 4 acres at $6 million. I think I did that right. It's $24 million. So that was my basic analysis of the situation. Then, like I said earlier, I brought in the team. I'm like, okay, someone's got to go see about the building, do the analysis. It's 99 rooms. Can we make money? There's a restaurant. And there's all this extra land, right? Of course, there's the parking lot and the parkade. The parkade, it doesn't matter, but the parking lot took up space. But there's an acre and a half of undeveloped land. What do we do? So we went through all these different iterations of what if we do employee housing? What if we do some more stacked townhome hotel? And then I went there and I said, we got to do spa. This is crazy. The spa business is so good. And of course, that's based on absolutely nothing of me saying, let's do a spa. So then we hire a spa consultant. We go through the whole thing. Should we do a spa? Does it make economic sense? What are the EBITDA margins? Et cetera, et cetera. So hundreds of thousands of dollars of reports and, specialists later, we decided to do the deal. Luckily, the Holiday Inn franchise agreement expired in January. We closed in January. We shut the whole building down. We renovated in 6 months. It's 60,000 square feet. It was insane. We actually filmed a TV show. So we're making what's called, I don't even know what the title is, but we made a TV show. We're trying to sell it to a network as we speak. So hopefully like Netflix or someone like that picks it up because it's so crazy. Like the whole thing was insane, and everything that you need for a good TV show happened. Like there was a flood, there was a fire, there was a this, and it was all like not dramatized. Like it happened.
That sounds like a normal hotel renovation.
Exactly. And I can't believe that one of the big networks doesn't have a really good series on this. Like I've watched some of the other hotel makeover shows and renovations and Island of Brian or whatever they're all called. Nothing bad against them, but they don't depict what really happens. And we go into the details like in our TV show. We go in, meet the investors, go into the financing and all that. So that, but simplify it so that every, Tom, Dick, and Harry can appreciate, um, you know, what we have to offer as a developer. So I'm really excited about the TV show. So the Holiday Inn is our latest and most interesting deal because it's big. The exit valuation is $150 million. So it's a large valuation. It was a big purchase to begin with. We started at $24 million. We're adding a spa. We're adding a conference center. We're adding 40 rooms. We renovated 100 rooms. So and on and on and on it goes. But it's a really good deal. It's projected IRR of 27%. So it's a good deal.
Wow. Okay. So how did you renovate?
That was like a lot.
That was a lot. Well, you went from 24 million to 150 million. I'm trying to like add up in my head. That would be a great return. That would be an epic return. So how did you walk me through the steps that you went through on the planning side to get this renovation done in 6 months? Because you're in a mountain town. I got to imagine that's challenging in itself. Did you have everything staged, ready to go? When do you bring in designers? What's the whole story?
It was a disaster. We weren't organized. We brought in the designers too late. The designers were disorganized. They were too slow. Trades were on site complaining, like the plumber was like, oh, you want me to install a sink? Well, you haven't even spec'd the sink, you idiot. So then we're running around spec'ing sinks. Like designers are running the store buying lights because our lights got held up in China and we couldn't get them on time. You name it. It was so good. It was so good that if this TV show doesn't sell, I'm going to be so disappointed. But yeah, no, I can't sit here and be like, we had a proper IFC package 2 months before and everything was great. No, it was a complete shit show because we only went firm on the deal October 23rd, closed January 10th. So we were only firm for under 2 months. Had to get the financing, had to get a lender on side, had to raise $8 million to close. And then another, the total raise was $22 million. We just finished it. Oh my gosh. That then took all of our energy away from development fund 2 to Townhouse-hotels and spa. So the deal came out of nowhere. And this is actually a good story. So last July, so I guess, 14 or 16 months ago, I'm on holiday. I'm standing at the side of the lake and the seller, Mike, who we've been figuring this out. We're going to do this deal, calls me. He says, I got another offer. So shit or get off the pot. Cut me a check for $250,000, non-refundable, or I'm selling the hotel to someone else. And at this point, I'd put in 42% of my due diligence. I was kind of committed. I wasn't sure. Do we have the team? And I was just like, fuck it. Here's your $250,000. We're going to do the deal. And so, of course, again, if you were super analytical or you had a company with strong due diligence or you had an advisory or a board of directors or a process, you wouldn't be able to do that. So I did it. And it's a really good deal.
How did you set yourself up to come into this kind of flow? Because everyone gets these marketing emails from brokers. Everyone looks at them, but the best deals, I think, come off market, knowing a market through random people. How have you figured out how to set that up, or how has your reputation enabled you to get these kinds of deals?
Well, it's exactly what you just said. It's just being in a market and knowing people. And we've done so many deals, based on, Western Canada hotel groups. I think we're the most active on buying, renovating, building from the ground up, the amount of projects we've done in the last 5 years. So people know, oh, you want to sell something, call Sky. She's a junkie. She'll probably buy it. So I think there's a lot of that because I'd say all of our deals have been off market, really. When something comes with a fancy package, I'm like, oh, it's too expensive. Forget it, which is probably bad. I shouldn't do that. I should really look at it more clearly. But I like kind of the hustle of it. And I'm really competitive. So I'm like, oh, I want to find something before someone else does. I get mad when someone passes me on the mountain bike. I have to catch them. It's really sick.
I think that's your competitive edge, by the way. Off-market deals. Oh. Well, maybe. I haven't seen you mountain bike. It could be. But off-market deals, that's unique that other people don't have. And that's definitely should be a part of your development fund 2 pitch deck. And you should be talking to people about that.
But it's actually off-market deals combined with deals that have been for sale forever that everyone's written off because they think there's something wrong with them. So over there, the one I keep looking at, there was a for sale sign on that piece of land for, I think, 4 years. A big ass for sale Royal LePage. Oh my gosh, the rumors. I heard there was a dinosaur buried there. I heard there was environmental issues. I heard there was, I don't even know, ghosts. I've heard it all. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to tie it up because no one else has, which is crazy. This is the last large piece of land downtown Revelstoke, like smack downtown. $1.8 million. I'm going to tie it up with whatever deposit I could scrounge up. I didn't have any more cars to finance, so I had to find it in the business. And we'll see what happens. So, of course, we do a phase one. We do all the things. There's no dinosaur. There's no environmental issues. There's no nothing. And after we closed on the site and it went public, Basecamp's bought this site, yada, yada, which was in 2019, I had about 5 phone calls from locals saying, I was looking at that deal. I was going to do it. One guy even had plans. I'm like, who goes and spends money on plans and doesn't even have the site tied up? And that's my biggest piece of advice to people. Just tie up the site. The deposit's refundable. If you can't get it together, at least you're in control of the deal. Don't spend all this time and money and you don't even have the deal under contract. And so that's probably also how I end up in so many deals, because I just tie them up with nothing other than, some money. But what I mean is I haven't spent all this time. I haven't run a pro forma. I haven't done anything. I just like it. And then I go into it. So, and then usually I make it work. So it's bad.
Well, talk about that some more. Like, what's your strategy on whether it's an existing hotel or a piece of land? Like, are there scrappy techniques that you're doing that others are just totally oblivious to, that if they were doing, they'd be getting these deals too? Like, what are the secrets? Like, is it just putting up a soft deposit, doing some work? Like, what are some of the other ways you've been able to get deals done?
It's a pure gut instinct. I can't teach it. It's like, it's just a feeling, right? It's like, I just feel like this is a good deal. Let's go do it. And it's like I said earlier, not having analysis paralysis, and it's not being afraid to pick up the phone. Like, I'm a salesperson at heart. I'm competitive. I'm scrappy, like you said, but not in the unethical sense, just in the like aggressive sense. And I'm not scared to ask somebody something. I'm not scared to call someone just because they're a billionaire. I'm not scared of anything, really. And I used to be. So I can't like claim that I've always been this way. I used to be so shy and like, oh God, what if I phone and they hate me? Like, what if I piss someone off? Like, what if I go to the city and they don't want to give me a permit? What if, right? And then I like got to a point where I started abiding by, like, if you never ask, the answer will always be no. And I was like, well, I can either ask or I can sit here and fester in my cesspool of shit. So I'm going to start asking. And that's kind of how I got going.
I want to talk about design, because that's something that I've recognized in all of your properties. And it's unique. It's important. I think a lot of hotel developers and owners today, for financial reasons or because they just don't have taste and they happen to have fallen into hotels, design has gotten very follow the leader, but they're following trends from 5-10 years ago. What are there common themes and ways that you approach designing a hotel?
Oh, absolutely. We're in mountain towns, so we go with, like, of course, a mountain vibe, wood accents. Like, there's certain things that just go when you're in a mountain town, and that's a given, but we try to do it differently. But if you go, so for the exterior of the building, it's, what is the right color? What's the right tone? What's the right amount of wood? What's the right window size? That kind of stuff. Then you enter into the interior. And for us, it's really important to pick materials that have, longevity, so high quality, solid surfaces. So I'm not going to put in a shitty laminate countertop. I want to put in, a stone. Not only is it more beautiful, but it's going to last way longer. So it's a combination. We have designers who are, really good. We have an in-house designer now, actually, which is great. But I'm neurotic about it's got to feel clean, modern, fresh, mountain. And then we go as far as to use local artists. So when we put a painting on the wall, it's not some stock bullshit out of China. It's like a local artist who's able to create an original and then duplicate that in prints. Of course, we can't afford, 200 originals, but we can get the originals. So actually, our last building in Banff, we commissioned all the originals. I went around the office and I said, if you were an animal, what would be your spirit animal? And everybody said, I'm a fox, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm an owl. So everybody got a painting in their office that's original. And then we duplicated that in our hotel in Banff. So that's the story about Banff. So we always do something really unique and local and fun. And we'll do that forever.
What kind of amenities are really important and turning out to be non-negotiables to you, whether it's like Nordic spa, is it like a sauna, is it a cold plunge, is it a great piece of technology? What is kind of becoming really important these days in everything that you're doing?
Well, it's funny because the two things that are critical are the two things we did on number one, and we haven't deviated, which is a hot tub. Usually it's elevated, so on the roof or on like a platform or on a second floor. So elevated hot tub makes for great pictures and great experiences. And the second one is what we call the keyless check-in. It's a company called Remote Locks. We buy these locks. There's technology behind it. Again, I have no idea how it works, but I know it's the last four digits of your phone number when you book. So if the last four digits of your phone number is 1234 and you're in unit 201, you go to unit 201 at 4 p.m. 1234 works. At 11 a.m. on checkout, it stops working, and you can't forget it and call me and ask me what's the hell is my code, because it's the last four digits of your phone number. If you forget, you're an idiot. So we never have to get that annoying call. We never have to track down keys. I'm locked out of my room. And so that was my big push at the beginning, was to have this, like, let's, eliminate some of the customer service pain in the ass and have that. We also have hot tub where there's towels there. So there's where's my towel? So just like some of the common, moaning and groaning we've eliminated.
Can you talk us through what a Nordic spa is and what you're building?
Yes, it's amazing in North America that people don't know what Nordic spas are.
My,
This is
another
exactly
friend of
why
mine
we're
just
in the
did
business.
one actually
Oh, where?
in Arizona in Flagstaff.
I need to look it up.
Yeah,
Flagstaff, Nordic spa. Okay, I'll
Flagstaff.
look it up
It's
after.
called the something Motor Lodge. I'll send it to you after.
He
John
did his own,
Grossman.
or he did it with like a spa company?
He's so good. He probably did it on his own.
You should introduce us. I'd
I
love to
will.
meet him.
Is John Grossman. He's also YPO friend. He was actually, I don't know, number one or two on the pod. And he bought this motel, like very similar story to you. And they have other hotels, but he added in a Nordic spa and it became this really well-known thing.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that it's like I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like the Nordic spa expert. I'm not. I didn't know what it was. There's a company in Alberta who opened one, so at half an hour from Canmore, and it's just been so busy and such a success. And that's how, as an Albertan, I got to know the business. Then you look at Nordic spas in Quebec, which is one of the Canadian provinces. They have 62. We have one. And then you go and go as further, and Nordic spas in Europe. Holy shit, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And so it's the basics is essentially you revive yourself and rejuvenate it, whatever you want to call it, by doing hot, cold, rest, repeat. So whether it's like go into a steam room, sauna, then a cold plunge, then you go into a rest area, then you repeat. That's like the very basis of it. There's obviously way more to it, and people who are experts would be able to tell you what it does to your blood and your this and your that and all the rest of it. But for me, I always just loved that experience. It's great. Anyone who's an athlete has done hot, cold, and knows it's great for your sore muscles or whatever. So that's been around for like all of time. But if you can take that like rejuvenating experience, wellness, all of that, and combine it with social, is where I'm like, that would be so great. And so our spas are not the quiet kind. We're not running around telling people to shut up. We're running around saying like, go there with your friends, have a great time, have a cocktail, and feel good. Obviously you're like, have the opportunity to go have a massage or be in a quiet area. But the whole thing isn't this like, quiet thing. It's like, it's very important that people are having a good time. So we're building one right now, and then we have a couple of sites for more, and I'm just really jazzed about the business.
And I assume it's not just for hotel guests. You're going to allow outside people to come, and this becomes a good marketing advertising tool for the hotel. Is that right?
Exactly.
Or is it just
Well,
hotel
we
guests?
have some that are just for hotel guests. And like, for example, in Canmore, we're building one where it's not just for hotel guests of that hotel. It's for hotel guests of Basecamp, because we have hundreds and hundreds of rooms. So we really want to cater to our clients and not the walk-in demographic. But we have other locations where it'll be the walk-in demographic. So it just depends.
Part of the allure of Airbnb is, well, I guess on the demand side, it's for families or groups traveling together that want more rooms and they want to be together. And hotels traditionally are one-bedroom rooms, unless you want a suite. And those are going to be few and far between and a lot more expensive. What was your early insight around these kind of 2 to 3 bedroom hotel rooms that were purpose built for that size and essentially look like a townhouse?
Yeah, it was all based on me, really. Like I selfishly love traveling, I love skiing, I love going with my friends, and I hated sharing a bed in a bedroom. I was like, I don't want to share a bedroom. Like this is crazy. But we want to have a kitchen. We want to have shared experiences. We want to sit in the living room. And a lot of it was because I do a lot of like, which are now co-ed sports, but at the time, like mountain biking and skiing 15 years ago was like very male dominated. So I'd be traveling with all these dudes. And like another reason why I'm like, I want my own bedroom, but I want to hang out with like my buddies. And so we would always be trying to find these places that didn't exist. And that was like kind of the start of this needs to be a thing. This needs to be a brand. Why are there no places to stay? Who wants to stay with two queen beds in a bathroom? Like I've spent so many nights, two queen beds in a bathroom with like a buddy of mine who like we're just buddies and it's just awkward. It's like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. So there was a, personal experience combined with I have kids now, but at the time I didn't have kids. But you don't want to go and like, your kids are lying there sleeping and you're sitting there. You can't watch TV. You can't talk. They're sleeping. You don't want to wake them up. Like that's terrible. They have their own space. Then you can have your own space as a parent. It's great. So it really appeals to anyone. And in our projects, we have one bedroom and studio units. So if you're just a single person or a couple, we have something for those people as well. So and then a lot of ours interconnect. So you can have up to a 12 bedroom unit, which is what makes us even more unique. You don't have to go to, some random house over there that's not even supposed to be on Airbnb and hope for the best. Like come to Basecamp, connect your units. You could have 4 townhomes in a row and you guys all come together for a meal and then you go over there to your respective bedrooms. I really think it's like the best thing ever. So if I may say so.
It's not a lot of people do it. And I think it's amazing. And just look at villas at luxury resorts. It's basically the same thing. How do you think about the numbers? So like, I don't know what your threshold is for hotel size nowadays. Let's say it's 60 rooms. What's the equivalent 2 to 3 bedroom setup, converting it to like a 1-bedroom hotel? Is it like the same? Is it less? Do you get economies of scale? Do you not? How does that work?
You get economies of scale, let's say after like 60 suites, which would be the equivalent of 100 rooms, which is kind of the same thing you see in a standard hotel. You get over 100 rooms, you can start seeing, more notable economies of scale. So it's very similar. If we at the beginning, our properties that only have 32 units, the fixed costs were just so high compared to a project that's 100 plus units. And so in the places that we have these smaller properties, we have a GM who's actually responsible for 3 or 4 of them. And now we're going into 100 to 150 suites, which is 150 to 200 rooms. Then we have GM supervisors, all of that for that property. So we're evolving to the larger properties. It just works better economically.
Have you explored alternative lodging like tents or Airstream trailers? Because a lot of your properties have some acreage where you can add these things seasonally or permanently, but they might not count for your developable square footage. What have you done in terms of those types of things?
Yeah, we actually acquired a property at the beginning of this year called Sundance, which is now Sundance by Basecamp. And it's a series of anywhere from a teepee to a tent site, camper site, and then we have a few higher end yurt kind of things. It's great. I love it. It's new. So I'm not the expert, but we did all of our due diligence. It's a great property and there's opportunity to grow and add domes or add cabins. So we're exploring that. And we're also exploring what we can do at our existing properties as well.
I want to talk a little bit about like challenges and failures. What's the worst deal you've done?
Worst. So there's one deal we're in right now. It's in a place called Harvey Heights, which is just outside Canmore. We bought a piece of land and actually condominiumized and sold 54 townhouse units, but to buyers. They are zoned vacation. So these people are then buying the condos and Airbnb them themselves. It has nothing to do with Basecamp. It's just kind of one of our opportunistic deals, so to speak. And it's just been a terrible deal. It's not really like we missed something or didn't do something. It was just we bought this piece of land. The municipality was brutal. The residents opposed us. We had to go through an SDAB hearing, which is Subdivision Development Appeal Board. It cost a fortune. They got a lawyer. We had to get a lawyer to fight. We ended up winning. We got our permits. We started construction. every construction costs went up. They were more expensive. We had to have pre-sales to get our loan. So now our margins are like way skinnier than they were supposed to be. It's just one thing and then the other and then the other and then the other. And then there was a shoring wall on our drawings that ended up being 3 times bigger than it was supposed to be. So instead of 300 grand, it was $1 million, and on and on and on it went. So it was just a bad deal. And it's funny because this goes back to the gut intuition. When we bought the piece of land for whatever it was, I can't remember, we got an offer to purchase it, I think like 6 months later for $2 million more than we paid. And I was like, let's just sell it. Like, let's sell it. Let's sell it. And then, of course, everyone's like, yeah, but if you do the deal, you make way more than $2 million. I said, I don't care. Let's sell it. And I got outvoted, which there's no official vote. We're not a board. It was just like the construction VP and a couple other people. So I was like, fine, let's do the deal. And now it's like, oh man, it would have been so much better to sell it, which there was no grounds. Like at that time, we didn't know this was all going to happen. So that's like, yeah, pretty unfortunate situation. Nobody's like, and I shouldn't be so like about it. Like everyone's still making a bit of money. So it's not like a total dud. It's just we could have put our time elsewhere.
How would you advise people who are looking to create a career path like you have with these really cool experiential hotels starting from nothing? How would you advise that they start? Would it be your same path? Would it be something different? What would you say?
Yeah, I'd say the same path because I don't know any different, right? Like I would say just go do it. But a lot of things have to line up or you have to make them line up. Like they didn't line up for me. I didn't have like rich parents who cut me checks and all these things that some people have. Like I had to like find the money. I had to do it. I had to chase it. I had to find sites. I had to, at the beginning, I did everything. I was the GC. I ran the trades, and my husband at the time, who was my boyfriend, was running them on site, and I was the project manager, and I was doing QuickBooks, and I was doing accounting. I had to do everything. I don't recommend it. I think everyone should just get a job. Like it's just so painful.
Well, that didn't work out for you.
No, I didn't get a job. Did work, but I don't know. I think there's no right or wrong path. There's nothing I can say that's like do this. People always ask me that, like how should I start the business? I don't know. Just go do it. And if it doesn't work when you try this, then try that. And if that doesn't work, then try that. And just keep going because nobody can predict all of the different things that could potentially happen. They're just going to happen and then you have to deal with them. So I really think for someone to be successful, they just have to be able to deal with things.
How have you thought about culture in your company? Because now you're at a point where it's not just you and you have to have all these people and they have to be happy working with you and you have to rely on them. How have you built a culture in your company? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, when it was just me and then I hired a few people, I was very much like, listen, I don't have time to manage you. Like, go deal with yourself and shut up and come back with some results, all in good humor. Like right now, it wasn't like I was yelling at them. And so I was really lucky to find a few key people who I call them entrepreneurs in a job. So they're very entrepreneurial, but they would never really want to go out and like risk their house and their entire life or they never did, right? Whether they wanted to, I actually never asked them that, but they're there and they're running their business units and they're successful at that. So one of the people that I hired almost right at the beginning is very culture driven. So I have to say that together we, devise what we want for a company culture. How do we want people to be? And I always just said, I just want people to be happy, right? So figure out what it is that makes someone tick. Do they want more money? Do they want more holidays? Do they want this? Do they want that? Do they want cookies Friday mornings? Like, I don't know. Figure out, like ask people, right? So it's not just about me dictating and saying like, you must like cookies. It's like, okay, what does everybody want? What makes you happy? And you can't make everyone happy with the same ingredients. It's impossible. So we try to really find out what matters to people and to do those things. And then, of course, to have social events, to have parties, and equally important, to be philanthropic, to give back to the communities that we're in, to volunteer for events where we can, to encourage people to volunteer and to be part of the communities. So, yeah.
It's an amazing insight. Because I think a lot of companies try and standardize things like, this is our vacation policy, this is how much we pay this level, this is, how we do things here. Personalizing it, though, is unique. I've never really, we've done it, but I've never really heard it said in that way.
Well, when you're new, you can kind of like, we only opened our first hotel in 2017, right? So it's not like we've been around forever and ever, and we have all these programs and all these documents and all these policies and all these things. So we just have to wing it. Same as like my story earlier about the 250 grand. Okay, we're buying a hotel. Like, here you go. We don't have systems and policies for every single thing yet. So it allows us to have more flexibility, and it allows me to be like, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. Of course, as we grow, to your point, we need to have, a culture that's, a little more manageable than, hey, Sky decided you should have an extra week off because she felt like it. Like, that doesn't work anymore. You can't do that. So we are, streamlining things and all of that. But at the end of the day, all I want is for people to want to come to work and not to just be like, oh, I got to go there again. So, yeah.
Sky, I ask all the guests on the podcast the same closing question, and that is, outside of your own portfolio, what is your favorite hotel?
Yeah, I don't really have one. I don't go anywhere. I have 2 kids and a business. But when I do go to Calgary, I do go to this place called the Dorian, which is really cute and really nice. And I actually know the lady who owns it, and she's great. So I'll say that for now because it's the first thing that comes to mind, because it's the most often, like, it's the place that I go the most often for work. But I think if I were to go somewhere, exotic, I've seen a lot of hotels that I would love to go to. And my favorite one on social media to look at is the Montage. So they do great social media pictures that make me want to go there. I just haven't been yet. 2-year-old and a 4-year-old keeps me busy.
Yeah. It's interesting. They have Montage and Pendry, and they've built a very well-known luxury brand in, a very quick, it hasn't taken them as long as Four Seasons. They're certainly not at that level, but it's amazing to see their growth. So we'll have to check out the Dorian.
Yeah, it's great. It's just Calgary's kind of a bit of a dud as far as hotels. So someone finally did something a bit different. Thanks
for coming on the podcast. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, everyone. It's Jake here. Thanks again for joining me on this conversation. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Lastly, don't forget to follow me on Twitter @JWorzak. I'll see you in the next episode.
Jake Worzak is the founder and CEO of Dove Hill Capital Management. All opinions expressed by Jake and his guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Dove Hill Capital Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not reflect or represent real estate, financial, or investment advice.